Hey everyone, it's Olivia here, aka Story Minded, and today I'm going to be doing the Writer Habits tag. Once again, I discovered this because of Emma Lederman's channel, so I'll leave a link to hers. Oh, the lighting's gone quite pretty because of the sun that's coming through the window. Sorry, just noticed that. So I'll leave a link to her tag on her channel, and like on my last video, I realised I was really bad at this. I forgot to tag anyone. I'm really sorry. I tagged people in the description, like as in everyone. So once again for this video, I tag anyone who has an interest or love of writing to do the Writer's Habit tag. Obviously if you want to give it a go you can, but obviously it helps if you like writing, otherwise the question's going to be a bit difficult for you to answer. Okay, so question number 1, typed or handwritten? Quite similar to the other tag. I like a combination of both. I obviously, for my actual first drafts and subsequent drafts, I type them because I would not be very good at handwriting them. But for my notes and character development, and I sometimes type notes onto my computer, but I love notebooks. Like, I adore notebooks. You can never have too many notebooks. So I do a bit of both. 2, cursive or printed? I would love to be able to write cursive. Like, I think calligraphy is so interesting and artistic, and it's like, I would love to be able to do that. I would love to come up with quotes and do it in all like pretty cursive writing, but I can't. I'm not artistic in that way. So I would love to do cursive, but I can't. So I would say I have to say printed. Show us your favourite pen. I don't have a favourite pen. It's really sad. No, I don't have a favourite pen, unfortunately. Any pen. Pens are a joy. And I remember for my, when I was back at college for my A-level in creative writing, in the final exam in my second year, we had a question on, you had to create like an unusual narrative voice, and then your second question was you had to write a commentary on the piece you'd written. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? And I looked at my pen and I thought, I think I could do something really creative about this. So I literally did the voice of a pen, which was really random. But I got a B overall, so it couldn't have been that bad. So I really enjoyed doing that. But yeah, any pen, but actually, if going back to the whole cursive thing, if I could write cursive, and if I wanted, because I love history, I would have a quill. I don't know what type of quill I would have, but I would have a quill and ink, and I would pen it, and like Jane Austen or something. So that would be my favourite pen. Okay, question number 4. Where do you like to write? Location. This wonderful space around me, my bedroom. I like to write in my bedroom. I really struggle to write when there's a lot of stimulus going on. I sort of need that quiet and I need that space to be able to write. Although I have been able to write downstairs before, which is quite interesting. And I used to love writing in my creative writing lessons back at college. I mean, I was just surrounded by people who shared the same passion as me, and it was great, and we all had a good time. So I used to like writing at college and writing in the LRC and in classrooms and stuff. Question number 5. Who are your 5 favourite authors in terms of authorial style? That's a hard word to say. I've picked out 5 books here, and I'm going to share them with you, and I'm going to read a little bit from each one. The first one I'm going to go for is this wonderful man. And just before I start with this bit, it doesn't necessarily mean that these are my all-time favourite authors, because I really struggle to pick favourites. Like, I have to give a quick shout out to when I was a child, Michael Morpurgo and Jacqueline Wilson. I loved their style when I was young, and I really need to get some more of their books, just because you can never have too many of their books, and I got rid of a lot of them, which is a shame. And I think if I want to expand my writing style, it'd be really good to read some child fiction again. But anyway, this wonderful person, Neil Gaiman, on one of his short story collections. I sort of really discovered him in college, and I'm so glad I did, because some of his stories are really intelligent and they go completely over my head, and I'm like, Neil Gaiman, I don't even know what you're trying to say here. But I think he captures, I love his use of twists. Like, for me personally, Neil Gaiman is a master at twists, and I don't know, but when I read his stories, they just seem to have such a sort of classic narrator's voice, which I love, and he is a master at short sentences, which I need to learn to master, because I'm a very sort of lyrical narrative writer, like in the sense of description, so I have long passages, and I need, and he also does what I love, like one sentence lines, so like rather than a paragraph you have just the single sentence, which is so powerful. So I'm going to read you, because it's only one of his very sort of short stories or microfiction, Baby Cakes. But I will just warn you, it's quite dark, so if you don't like dark writing, you might want to, I'll give you like the thumbs up when I finish reading this. But this is Neil Gaiman's Baby Cakes. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to angle the camera really awkwardly. A few years back, all the animals went away. We woke up one morning and they just weren't there anymore. They didn't even leave us a note or say goodbye. We never figured out quite where they'd gone. We missed them. Some of us thought that the world had ended, but it hadn't. There just weren't any more animals. No cats or rabbits, no dogs or whales, no fish in the seas, no birds in the sky. We were all alone. We didn't know what to do. We wandered around lost for a time, and then someone pointed out that just because we didn't have animals anymore, there was no reason to change our lives, no reason to change our diets, or to create tests, or to cease testing products that might cause us harm. After all, there were still babies. Babies can't talk. They can hardly move. A baby is not a rational thinking creature. We made babies, and we used them. Some of them we ate. Baby flesh is tender and succulent. We flayed their skin and decorated ourselves in it. Baby leather is soft and comfortable. Some of them we tested. We taped open their eyes, dripped detergents and shampoos in, a drop at a time. We scarred them and scolded them. We burnt them. We clamped them and planted electrodes into their brains. We grafted and we froze and we irradiated. The babies breathed our smoke, and the babies' veins flowed with our medicines and drugs until they stopped breathing or until their blood ceased to flow. It was hard, of course, but it was necessary. No one could deny that. With the animals gone, what else could we do? Some people complained, of course, but then they always do, and everything went back to normal. Only yesterday, all the babies were gone. We don't know where they went. We didn't even see them go. We don't know what we're going to do without them, but we'll think of something. Humans are smart. It's what makes us superior to the animals and the babies. We'll figure something out. I remember reading that at college and my face just dropped. And I just remember going like, oh, when I finished reading that story, because it was a massive twist. And I mean, Baby Cakes sounds so cute and innocent. And I thought, well, this is Neil Gaiman. It's not going to be cute and innocent. And then my friends were sort of like, what's wrong? And I was like, I've just read the most depressing story ever. And it's like, yeah. So that's the wonderful master that is Neil Gaiman. I'll go for this one next. This is probably one of my all-time favourite historical fiction novels. I'm sorry, my fingers are covering the title. Markus Zusak, The Book Thief. And I'm not going to obviously read the whole novel, because that would just be impossible. But I really liked his use of narrator and how creative it was, and for me, because I'm a massive fan of the historical fiction genre, it was just so different to anything I'd read before, and it really gave a voice to obviously like the other side, like the German community and everything, and I just thought it was just really different to anything I'd read before. So this is just a little tiny segment from the first bit. Death in Chocolate is the name of the chapter. First the colours, then the humans. That's usually how I see things, or at least how I try. Here is a small fact. You are going to die. I am in all truthfulness attempting to be cheerful about this whole topic, though most people find themselves hindered in believing me, no matter my protestations. Please, trust me. I most definitely can be cheerful. I can be amiable, agreeable, affable, and that's only the A's. Just don't ask me to be nice. Nice has nothing to do with me. I just really enjoyed how different it was and how it's like narrated by Death, and I thought it was a really good story. Okay, this is The Night Rainbow by Claire King. I really loved this book. It was one of those books that I just sort of, I can't even remember where I got it. I just found it, and I'm so glad I did, because it's from a child's perspective, and I really like different perspectives. I like reading from different perspectives, and for me, Claire King really captured the child's voice, like the protagonist P, I think her name is Peonine, or she's French, so I can't pronounce anything like that, but I'm going to read just the first page of the chapter 1, because it's got a really lovely flow to it, and there's a lot of sort of visual imagery, and it's very colourful. Maman's belly is at the stove, her bottom squeezed up against the table where we are colouring. Her arm is stretched forwards, stirring tomato smells out of the pan and into our socks. She isn't singing. It is mostly cool in the kitchen, but half of me is sunny and hot because I'm sitting in a ribbon outside. The rest of me is in the stripy shade of the socks and knickers that dangle from the wooden area above our heads. They have been there for 5 sleeps already, since that rainy afternoon when we couldn't stop getting under Maman's feet, even when we were in a different room altogether. A fly lands on the edge of the butter dish, and another one on my empty plate. Then one jumps onto my arm, making the hair stand up. Margot watches them. Her eyes roll around so they are mostly white, and her eyebrows waggle. 2 more flies skid to a stop on the oilcloth. The flies think our house is an airport, P, she says. Margot is like me, and she is not like me. I am 5.5. Margot is only 4, but she's tall for her age. We both like cuddles and insects and cuddling insects, and we both have freckles and green eyes, like Maman, with sparkles of blue and brown. In the sunlight, Maman's eyes are kaleidoscopes. And I just sort of really like how she's just so subtle in her style, but it's so powerful. Like how you just gain the sense from the first page that their mother is, she's sort of, there's almost like a sense of neglect there, and like that there's a distance between them, like especially with the bit where it's like they're still getting under her feet even when they're in a completely separate room. So I really recommend, like all these books that I'm talking about, I really recommend them. And The Night Rainbow is a wonderful story. It was really good, and it has quite a good twist in it, which I guessed. Okay, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven by Mitch Albom. This was a lovely story. This is one of the ones I got with my Waterstones voucher, and his style was so simplistic. Once again, the language he uses is so simplistic, but there's beautiful bits of description in there, and it was just a wonderful, like one of those classic wonderful stories that is just a joy to read because it's so easy to read. And I'll just read you the first page. The end. This is a story about a man named Eddie, and it begins at the end, with Eddie dying in the sun. It might seem strange to start a story with an ending, but all endings are also beginnings. We just don't know it at the time. That's sort of just the first bit. Obviously there's a bit more than that, but I just wanted to read the first bit because that's just, I thought it was such a wonderful introduction. It's like, oh, this is going to be a lovely story. And then the last one, which is literally, this is like the most recent book I've completed reading, Anne Morgan, Beside Myself. It was a really interesting thriller that deals with mental health and lots of different things, and it was, I really enjoyed it. And she uses a lot of references, which made it really relatable because there was a lot of references to like things that happened in my childhood, like in the sense of different board games and things, and it's like, oh, this is really lovely to read. It's like a trip down memory lane. So I'll just read the first page of the prologue. Out into the garden, sunlight blaring, Ellie lumbering after. Run along, you two, and don't get into mischief. The leaves of the apple tree blotching us with shadows. Away from the dark house with the curtains pulled shut, the cushions huddle in. The mumbles and sighs that boil up into yells and sobs at the sight of water rings from the bottom of a glass. A manna mist. Not me. It's always Ellie. Never my fault. I'm the good one because I was born first. Onto the bottom of the garden, behind the blackberry bush. I turn back to watch for eyes, but the coast is empty. Then up with the latch, the gate swings open and the warm sun of the lane spills in. A giggle from Ellie. A jiggle like she needs the toilet. Shh, Ellie, I say. Do you want the world and his wife to hear? Ellie's eyes go serious. People say after I came out the cord got twisted around Ellie's neck, and because of that she's sometimes not as good as me. But I know she does it on purpose. I see the look she gives down at me when the teacher picks her up because she's tired. Yeah, it's a really, really can't recommend it enough. Okay. Question 6. What are your 3 favourite books on writing? I've only ever read one book on writing and it was really good. But I warn you, if you want to read it, it's this one. Writing Down the Bones by Freeing the Writer Within by Natalie Goldberg. It's really good. But it will unlock things in you that make it very hard to write. There's a chapter where she talks about our inner editor. And personally, I've never had trouble to sit down writing before. But she also mentions how, like, when you want to do other things rather than write, and it's like, I've never used to be like that, but then I read this, and then I was like, actually, yeah, now I really want to go on my game when I should be writing and stuff like that. But I do love to write, so if you're really passionate about it, you will push past that. But it's very zen. There's a lot of zen in this book, which is really nice to read, and it's really interesting the way she approaches writing. And there's another amazing chapter where she talks about first drafts and not worrying about what they're like, because through all the compost, she compares it to like compost and fertilizer, and she's like, through all the fertilizer there'll be like a piece of good in anything you write, so never delete your first drafts and they can always be edited. And there was another chapter that I loved, which is about actually giving things the name they have. So, for example, if you talk about flowers in your story, don't call them flowers, give them their actual name, because it holds so much more meaning. So, like, for example, if you use like a rose, or think about the Victorians, they used to use flowers to give messages to each other. So, you know, it's a really interesting book on writing. This one I haven't read yet, but I'm really looking forward to when I get around to it. I got it when I was back at my old apprenticeship. It's called Grammar for Grown-Ups, Everything You Need to Know But Never Learnt in School, so it's much more from the creative writer's approach. I'm really excited. I think this will really strengthen my writing from a technical point of view, but I haven't got round to reading it yet. And then this is what my older sister got me for Christmas one year. 365 ways to get you writing daily inspiration and advice for creative writers. I'm really looking forward to working through this, but once again I haven't had a chance to, because I'm really working on my 712 More Things to Write About prompts book. And then I know it says free, but I just want to show you guys The Imaginary World of by Kerry Smith. It's a really good writer's journal. So if you struggle to create worlds or anything, it just has some really interesting ideas for world building and everything. It really makes you think about all the parts of your world, so it's much more if you're into novel writing and stuff like that. But yeah, so those are sort of the books I use or will be using. Have you ever competed in NaNoWriMo? Yes, this year was my first year, and I need to do a mini video on how it went. And have you ever won NaNoWriMo? No, I haven't. Have you ever had anything published? Yes, as I've said in other videos, I really want to show some of the little bits of writing I got published. Like, I need to dig out those anthologies and I'll share them with you. What projects are you working on now? Good question, because I enter a lot of writing competitions, so I'm usually working on a lot of projects all at once. I've recently entered the Mogford Food and Drink competition with a short story called No Beans Please, which I was really proud of. It's about food phobias. There was another, with my Consequences experimental collection, I've entered that in a competition. I sort of need to get back to my nano novel that I was starting to do, my sci-fi, A Human's Touch, but I haven't added any more to it at the moment. And there's a Jane Austen writing competition that I really want to enter. Has a quote from Mansfield Park, something about selfishness must be forgiven because there is no hope of a cure. so you have to respond to that quote. What is your soundtrack to writing? I don't actually have a soundtrack to writing, although I've seen a lot of people create playlists for their stories, and I think that is such a cool idea. So on my Spotify, I have a mini soundtrack for A Human's Touch, just sort of songs that I think link to the characters quite well, and even some music without lyrics, because I think sometimes just music itself is really powerful, so I've got that for some of the scenes that I'm planning in my head. And the last question, do you have a writing pump-up song? Yes, I do. I do love music, and I really love musicals, so for some reason, like, I love the songs from Hamilton, the musical, and for some reason, whenever I hear it, I just really want to write. It's non-stop from Hamilton, the musical, and I just find it just pumps me up. And obviously it mentions writing, but obviously Alexander Hamilton was writing all legislation and for change and everything, but that song where it just mentions writing and stuff, it just gets me really pumped. So I hope, if anyone's watched this video, thank you. I hope you enjoy it. You should really give this tag a go because it's great fun, and I hope to do some more videos soon. Bye!